I'm Estelle Getty. I'd like to welcome you to Louise Hay's study course based on her best-selling book, You Can Heal Your Life. Louise has adapted her wonderful book in order for you to actively participate in the ideas and beliefs she so lovingly shares with all of us. I've used Louise tapes myself and have found that I am now willing to believe that things can be different in my life. I think you'll find that this tape gives you a wonderful opportunity to learn more about yourself and to begin to heal your life. Here then is your personal private counseling session with Louise Hay.
Hello, I'm Louise Hay, and I'm here to share some ideas with you, to give you some new ideas to stimulate your thinking, to share some new perspectives. Let's know and affirm together that we are open and receptive to new ideas and to new ways of looking at life. I've often thought how beneficial it would be if these subjects could be taught in school from the very first grade. Think how helpful it would have been if, as a child, you were taught how to think and how to use your mind, and how to have self-esteem and self-worth, and how to have loving relationships, and how to be a good parent, and how to manage your finances. Just think how wonderful it would be to have a whole generation of adults who knew these things and manifested these truths. Were you taught any of this as a child? I think not. So let's share some of these ideas now, because it's never too late to learn. This is always the right moment. You see, I believe that life is really very simple. What we give out, we get back. And what we believe about ourselves becomes true for us. Our thinking creates our experiences. There is a law of thinking like everything else, like all of nature. There is a universal energy or law of mind or subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it. But to me it means the power that is within me and around me transforms my thoughts into experiences. You see, I believe that we are all responsible for everything in our lives. Every thought we think and every word we speak is creating our experiences, our future. And it's almost as though every time you think a thought or you speak a word, that universal intelligence or energy is listening or responding to what you are thinking or believing or saying, without judgment or criticism, totally accepting us at our own value. Whatever we choose to believe becomes true for us. You see, when we are little, we learn what is totally accepting us at our own value, what to think about ourselves, and what to believe about life from the adults around us. And when we grow up, we have a tendency to recreate in our emotional life the emotional environment we had as a child. Now, this is not good or bad or right or wrong. It just means that is what we believe to be true for us. And we also have a tendency to treat ourselves the way our parents treated us. We scold and punish ourselves in the same way. You can almost hear the words if you listen. And we love and praise ourselves in the same way if we were loved and praised as children. We also have a tendency to create relationships in our personal lives that were either the relationships we had with our mothers or with our fathers, or that they had between them. Think about how many times you've had a relationship in your life that was like your parents, either your boss or your lover or your husband or wife. This is not in any way to blame our parents, because we're all victims of victims, and nobody can teach us anything that they don't know. If you were raised in a family where there was great anger, then you are most likely to be an angry person yourself, or you're frightened of anger. If you were raised in a fearful family, then no doubt you look at life through fearful eyes. Besides, you see, I believe that we choose our parents. I think we decide to incarnate upon this planet at particular points in time and space. And we come here because it's like a classroom. We have lessons to learn. You have your lessons and I have my lessons. And so before we come each time, I believe we choose our sex, we choose our color, we choose our country. And then we look around for the perfect set of parents that will mirror the lessons and patterns we came to work on. We choose these people as the perfect mirror for our work. Then most of us, when we grow up, have a tendency to point our fingers at our parents and say, you did it to me, it's all your fault. But really, if we're all responsible for everything in our lives, then there's no one to blame. All is in perfect divine right order. And we are all doing our best according to the understanding, awareness, and knowledge that we have. Our point of power is always in the present moment. We create our future by our thoughts and actions of today. And we can know that no person, no place, and no thing has any power over us. We create all our situations and all our circumstances by our thinking, feeling patterns. And then we usually give away our power by blaming others when things do not go the way we want. Is this true for you? We all have things we believe and ideas about ourselves. Now, which one of these two ideas could be true for you? People are out to get me, or everyone is always helpful? If you really believe that people are out to get you, then you're going to have those sorts of circumstances in your life. However, if you choose to change that belief to everyone is always helpful, then you will find that wherever you go in life, people are there to help you. Now, wouldn't it be better to think that way? We all have a lot of foolish ideas about life and what we believe about ourselves. And we have so many rigid rules about how life should be lived. But you see, we can't really do anything about the past. That's all done now. And everything you have experienced in your life up to this moment, you have created by your thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs of yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, however far you go back. However, I repeat, the point of power is always in the present moment, which means that what you are choosing to begin to think right here and right now is going to create tomorrow and next week and next month and next year. The past has no power over us. The point of power is in this present moment. And we can begin to be free right here and right now. We do choose our own thoughts. We may not think so, but we do. It seems to me that almost everyone on this planet, myself included, and everyone I've ever worked with, is suffering from self-hatred and guilt to one degree or another. The more of it we have, the less our life works. And the less of it we have, the better our life works. It's like the bottom line for almost everyone that I know is, I'm not good enough. And we often add to that belief, and I don't do enough, and I don't deserve. Now, if we have a very strong belief in our subconscious mind, which to me is right here in the gut, that I'm not good enough and I don't deserve, then it's going to be extremely difficult for us to create a life that really works in all categories. Now you see, no matter what the circumstances, we are only dealing with a thought. I don't believe in giving power to outer effects. We may think that being broke is the problem. I see this as the outer effect of an inner problem. It's the inner thought patterns which create these effects. I have discovered that patterns of resentment and criticism and fear and guilt cause more problems in our lives than anything else. Even on the physical level, resentment that is held for a long time and literally eats at the way at the body can become cancer. Criticism that's indulged for a long time can also lead to conditions like arthritis. And if you look at arthritic hands, you can almost see the criticism in them. Fear can contribute to anything from baldness to poor feet. And guilt always creates pain. Guilt seeks punishment, and punishment creates pain. So if someone comes to me that is in chronic pain, I know they're dealing with old guilt patterns. Love and joy and forgiveness are the big healers. They all come from the heart. The heart represents love, and the blood in the body is joy. So a normal, healthy heart lovingly pumps joy throughout the body, nourishing all the cells and organs, creating a loving, joyous atmosphere for the cells to do their work in. If a heart has lost its ability to express love and joy, the forgiveness will open the door. Most of our problems come from blaming others, from not taking responsibility for ourselves. And as I said, if it is true that we are all responsible for everything in our lives, then there's no one to blame, not even ourselves. And every outer experience is only a mirror of our inner thought patterns. Now, this may be a new way of looking at life, because most people like to think that it's all their fault. It's the economy, or it's a husband or a wife or a boss, or it's because we don't have money, or it's whatever. But really, all those things out there are mirrors of what we think and believe inside. For instance, if everyone is always criticizing you, if you're a person that goes around saying, everybody's always criticizing me, then what I want you to realize is that it's your pattern to be criticized. Somewhere inside of you, and you may not be aware of this, there is a belief, and it probably comes from your childhood, that you deserve to be criticized. And so because of your belief and because of your pattern, you pull people into your life who are critical. And sometimes you can even attract people who normally are not critical, but because they are with you and the vibrations that you're giving out, you will pull the criticism out of them. The other thing about this is, if people criticize you a lot, it's quite possible that you are very critical. And because what we give out comes back to us, then the criticism you're giving to other people, or perhaps to yourself, is being reflected by the people around you. So one of the first things I like to do with people when there is a problem is to have them begin to say, I am willing to change the pattern in my consciousness that is creating this condition. I'm going to repeat that because it's very important. When you have a problem you wish to change, begin by saying to yourself, I am willing to change the pattern in my consciousness that is creating this condition. This simple sentence begins to get things moving. The universal power, the universal energy, the law of mind, your subconscious mind is constantly responding to every thought you think and every word you speak. So the moment we make the smallest shift in consciousness, our experience begins to change. It's your pattern, it's my pattern. We all have patterns we're working with. And as I said, most of the patterns we have come from the time we were 3 to 5 years old. These are our beliefs about life, our life scripts. However, we can change our attitudes towards the past and these life scripts. We are never stuck. You know, it's really very foolish to punish ourselves in the now because of some hurt in the past. To be hurt once is one thing, but then to continuously punish ourselves because of it is very sad and very unfulfilling. It's important that we dissolve resentment now because it can cause so many problems in the future. I've often said that to people. Do it before we're under the threat of the surgeon's knife. You see, then we have to deal with panic too. It's much easier to do it now. We have a choice of choosing to be a helpless victim and really believing it's all hopeless. And if we do, the universe will support us in that belief, and then all we do is go down the drain. Can you see how powerful we are? Our thoughts create our experiences. If I want to think that I'm unlovable, then I will be lonely for the rest of my life because I will prove my beliefs. However, if I want to change that belief into thinking that I am always surrounded by love and my life is full and rich, then that is what my life will become. My life will have to become a mirror of my inner experiences. So one of the things we want to do is to begin to release the pain of the past, to let it go, and to be willing to forgive. Do you know, the Course in Miracles says that all illness comes from a state of non-forgiveness, and that whenever we are ill, we need to look around to see who it is we need to forgive. Now, this does not necessarily mean condoning poor behavior, because I agree there are many people who behave poorly. Forgiving means to release our stuff on it and let ourselves be free and the other person be free. We understand that the people who mistreated us are also in pain, that they are doing the best they can, coming from the knowledge and awareness and understanding that they have at that particular point in time and space. I've learned over the years that there is only one thing to teach, and that is love. I teach people to love themselves in the here and now as they are. Self-approval and self-acceptance in the now are the keys to positive changes, and this means no self-criticism. In order to change our life on the outside, we must change inside. At least be willing to change ourselves. You don't have to know how to do this. Just be willing. We'll work on the hows. Remember, and I'm going to say this often, every thought we think and every word we speak is being responded to by the universal energy. So the moment we say we're willing, it's amazing how the universe begins to help us. It brings us what we need. You see, there is a part of you that is ready to make an enormous change, and this is why you have created me in your life. With the use of this tape and the ideas I'm sharing with you, you have the opportunity to go over and over this tape, and each time you do, you're going to find a new idea to work with. And each time you do, you're going to look deeper into yourself, and quite the contrary to what you may have believed in the past, you are going to find incredibly beautiful treasures within you. First of all, we need to figure out what the problem is. Oh, I know. You think you know the problem. You don't care for the weight of your body, or you have an illness, or you can't get your money act together, or you're lonely, or you have a relationship that's not working, or you don't like your job, or you want to do something very different, or many things. But to me, these are all outer effects of an inner thought pattern that is creating them. And if we spend our time just looking at the outer effects and working with those, the moment we fix one, we'll create another one. Because the inner belief is still there and saying that we don't deserve on some level. Now, it's safe to look within, and let's do it together. What I'd like you to do now is to pick up your pen and paper or notebook, and on the top of a page, I want you to write, I should. And then I want you to finish that sentence in at least a half a dozen ways. Turn the tape off now and do that. And when you've finished, come back and we'll continue. Write I should on the top of the page, and then finish it at least 6 or 7 times. All right, now that you have your list made, what I would like you to do is to read off each one on the list by itself, saying, I should. And then my question to you is, why? This is not to make you wrong in any way, but just to have you look at something in a different way. So you may say, I should get up early in the morning. My question is, why? And then I want you to look inside yourself to find the answers. Do this with each should on your list. If you can do this exercise with a partner, even better. When you're finished with the list and made a note of your answers so that you remember them, then come back to me and we'll go further. I believe that should is one of the most awful words in the English language, because every time we use the word should, we are in effect saying wrong. Either you were wrong, or you are wrong, or you're going to be wrong. And I don't think we need to be made wrong. I think we need to be right, or at least come from a position of choice, because all of life is choice, and we want to be aware of that. So I would like to take the word should and put it in the wastebasket, or throw it in the fire, or in the trash, or whatever you want to do. Remove it from your vocabulary forever. And replace it with the word could, because could gives us choice. Now it is true that sometimes it might be better for us to do something, but basically we still have choice. And if we don't do it, at least we're not wrong. So what I want you to do now with this exercise is to reread your should list one at a time. Only this time, I want you to say, if I really wanted to, I could. If I really wanted to, I could get up early in the morning. And then my question to you is, so why don't you, or why haven't you? And again, this is not to make you wrong, but to let you look at your shoulds and see how you really feel about them. So again, you can turn the tape off for a few moments and go through this process. If I really wanted to, I could. And so why haven't you? And when you've finished, come back. Now tell me, what did you learn? You know, most of us are so strict about our shoulds. There's such rigid rules in our lives. And most of them have to do with things that we either don't want to do, or we don't like to do, or are not us. And we find often when we go over this should list that we've been angry at ourselves for years because we don't do something that we don't want to do to begin with, or it was never our idea, or it was someone else's should. Perhaps the reason you've not done something on your should list is because you were afraid to do so. Now, instead of being bad, we find that you are only frightened. And this is a very different issue to work with. See, I like to take things off the should list. In fact, I like to remove them completely. What we can do is have them be choices. We could do them if we really wanted to. And if we're not doing them, then we probably don't want to do them, and we don't have to do them. So let's not try. Let's not berate ourselves. Let's not belittle ourselves for it anymore. This one little tiny exercise can show us so much about ourselves. So what can be dropped now from your should list? The next thing we want to do is to see where we are on the ladder of self-love. Now, I'm not talking about vanity and arrogance, because that is not love. That's a form of fear. I am talking about respect and acknowledgement for this beautiful being that we are. What we want to look at this point is how we do not love ourselves. And we do this by scolding ourselves, by criticizing ourselves, by creating pain for ourselves, emotional and physical. We don't love ourselves by mistreating our bodies. Sometimes we misuse food or alcohol or drugs. Sometimes we don't love ourselves by believing that we are unlovable, or by procrastinating, or choosing people that mistreat us. And sometimes we don't love ourselves by creating debt and burden. And sometimes, well, we all have so many ways. What are your ways of not loving yourself? Think about that. Make a note of it. you could again turn off the set and make a list of the ways that you do not love yourself. Any denial of our good is not loving ourselves, and we can do that in so many different ways. You know, I once had a client who wore glasses and often wore contact lenses, and we weren't even working to improve her vision, but we were working to release some old pattern in her life that was really limiting her. And one day we had a big breakthrough. And the next day when she got up and she put on her contact lenses, they were bothering her. So she took them out and her vision was absolutely clear. She could see everything perfectly. And she spent the whole day saying, I don't believe it, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. And the next day, she was back to wearing her lenses. You see, the universe will back up whatever we say. And when good comes into our life and we deny it, this is an act of not loving ourselves, and we literally push it away. Sometimes we have a partner who's tired or grouchy, and we think that something's wrong with us. Or our marriage ends, and we believe it's all our fault, and that we're not good enough. Or we have 1 or 2 dates with somebody and they never call again, and again we think something is wrong with us. Sometimes we're afraid to ask for a raise, or our bodies may not match the latest fashions, and we think we're not good enough. Or we don't make the sale, or we don't get the part, and we think we're not good enough. Or we may have a fear of intimacy, and so we wind up having no sex or anonymous sex. How do you express your lack of self-esteem? Think about it. It's not that we're wrong or bad people. It's just that we're looking at what we'd like to change. And we all have things about us that could be changed if we want to make our lives work better. When we were little tiny babies, we knew the perfection of our being. We knew how wonderful we were. You look at any tiny baby and you see how wonderful they are. They're full of love and they're full of life, and they ask for what they want and they express their feelings freely. When a little baby is angry, not only do you know it, the entire neighborhood knows it. And yet, 2 minutes later, their smile can light up a room because they express and it's over. And they always live in the now. And they reach out and ask for what they want. They're fabulous little babies. And they love their bodies from the top of their head all the way to the tip of their toes. They have no shame and no guilt. And they're not into comparison. And each one of us was like that. Then somewhere along the line we lost it. We listened to other frightened or angry people and believed what they told us. Where did you lose your love for yourself? All right, what I'd like you to do now is to pick up your hand mirror, and I want you to look into your own eyes and say, I love and accept you exactly as you are. I want you to do this now. Go ahead. I love and accept you exactly as you are. Just notice your reactions. How do you react to doing this? How do you feel? What's coming up? Is it an easy exercise to do? Do you feel foolish? Does it seem hard to do? Does it make you feel angry? What sort of reactions are you having? I can remember when I used to criticize myself all the time when I looked in the mirror. I remember the endless hours I used to spend plucking my eyebrows to make myself barely acceptable. And I also remember I used to be frightened to look into my own eyes. Are you like that? Is this a difficult exercise? Because to me, this is one of our core issues, how we feel about ourselves. It's not important what's happening out there. It's not the size of our hips or our bank account or the fact that we have a lover or not, but how we feel about ourselves. Loving the self, to me, is the most important thing we can do. And this begins, as I said before, with no criticism. Do you criticize yourself? Oh, I've heard all the answers. Well, of course. I mean, how am I going to change if I don't? Well, if I don't do that, I won't be able to motivate myself. Doesn't everyone? Or I've always criticized myself. Well, we're not talking about everyone. We're talking about you. Everybody has their own answers and their own reasons. Why do you criticize yourself? What's wrong with you? In fact, at this point, I'd like you to stop and give yourself a little time to think and make a list of all the things that you think are wrong with you. And when you finish that, come back and we'll go on. Make a list of all the things you think are wrong with you. You will get the most out of this tape and the work we do if you allow yourself to take the time to do the exercise.